Our guest today is Tim Nowak, the Executive Director of the World Trade Center St. Louis, and he coordinated a trip and innovation delegation to Europe. And Tim, thanks for joining us today. Tell us first how this trip came about and kind of some of the big picture goals that you and the folks who went on the trip had for expectations for the trip.
Sure. Well, St. Louis is blessed to have Kevin O'Malley, an attorney from St. Louis who was appointed in 2014 as ambassador, U.S. ambassador to Ireland. Not long before he and his wife moved over there to take on their post, we met and we talked about his goals, his ideas, his dream of creating greater economic ties between St. Louis and Ireland. We've had a long, rich history of people-to-people and cultural and academic connections between our two communities. And we met and he said, hey, I've got a short amount of time that I'm going to be ambassador. How can we deepen our economic ties? And so from that conversation, that led to a trade mission last year in 2015 led by St. Louis Mayor Francis Slay. And a number of businesses here who are either currently working in Ireland or have an interest in that. It was a very successful trip, and through a number of conversations, the ambassador invited us over one more time before the end of his term, which comes at the end of President Obama's administration. And that really was the start of the conversation of developing this follow-up trip. What we didn't want to do was just take the same people with the same meetings. Instead, we wanted to embrace what we saw in that last visit, which is a strong startup innovation community in Dublin, and bring a group of our own from St. Louis. We got a great story to tell here from an innovation and a startup perspective. And that was the start of assembling the delegation that we took here just last week.
So this trip happened here in mid-July 2016. More than 30 community and business leaders are along for the journey to Europe. You guys started in Lyon, France. Give us a couple highlights of that stop, if you would.
Sure. Lyon is a long-standing sister city of St. Louis as well, back in 1977, I think. And when we started to look at, okay, would we add on a visit beyond just Ireland, the idea came up of Lyon. And we're lucky enough here in St. Louis that bioMérieux, a company with a large presence in Hazelwood, they're headquartered out of Lyon. bioMérieux is a long-standing member company of the World Trade Center St. Louis. Through conversations with leadership there, they embraced the idea of hosting our delegation for a visit to their offices. So when you look at what Lyon's strengths are, strong emphasis in the bioscience and medical device community. And so in addition to a visit to bioMérieux's headquarters there and a chance for us to reinforce the message of the importance of their presence in St. Louis, with local partners, we were able to assemble an innovation seminar, a shared discussion that we centered around bioscience. And so we had a chance for BioSTL and other representatives from our delegation within that community to have that discussion with leaders in Lyon and look for ways to partner together going forward.
You guys moved on to Dublin, Ireland. What was accomplished on stop number 2 of the trip, I should say?
Well, Dublin is obviously where our ambassador hosted us at his residence, which is quite the place, I must say. And so we took this same innovation concept and focused it on the fintech and IT, financial technologies and IT. And so we had a chance there at his residence to have a great conversation with, again, leaders in that space in Dublin and some of our own representatives. And just a great discussion, a good crowd at the ambassador's residence. We then had a chance to tour Dogpatch Labs, one of the newer incubators in Dublin, and it was just a powerful experience, both the discussion at the ambassador's residence and then visually seeing a representation of their own innovation ecosystem. It was a great trip.
So this week-long journey wrapped up in Galway, Ireland, which is the home of your Deputy Director Stella Sheehan here at the World Trade Center, St. Louis.
We won't hold that against her.
That included a special announcement. Tell us more about that announcement and other things you experienced in Galway.
Yeah, here's the cool thing, and as if we planned it this way. We did, you sort of have a vision of how you want this thing to unfold, and when it all comes together, it's really powerful. Starting in Lyon, then moving over to Dublin, and then finishing up in Galway, all throughout the themes of relationships, collaboration, and possibilities, outcomes, consequential outcomes, were presented in each one of these stops. When we got to Galway and we hosted again this innovation seminar, and this time around the theme of ag technology, what we were able to do in partnership with the Yield Lab and the ambassador, the U.S. ambassador traveling over to Galway for this announcement, is in partnership with Thad Simons and his team at the Yield Lab, and with the strong support from the Economic Development Partnership, they were able to announce the formation, the launch of Yield Lab Galway Ireland. And this is a direct result of the 2015 trip, which Thad was a part of. And so here we are with 30 plus members in our delegation, many of whom this was their very first trade mission. And they were able to see, and we kept this news kind of quiet. Most in the delegation didn't even know this announcement was coming. On the very last day of our trip, for Thad and the ambassador to get up and announce that they are launching for the very first time a presence outside of St. Louis, and for this to be in a direct result of the ambassador's doors that he's opened up from the last trip, everyone in our delegation, they're able to see, oh my gosh, okay, so this is how it works. You know, the groundwork was laid last year, the foundation was set. Thad and his team, to his credit, they've spent multiple trips in the past year, time in Ireland, following up a lot of the leads that were made and the introductions that were made. And it really hits home that, look, our job, we can lay the groundwork for a trip like this. We can set the agenda. We can bring the partners in these foreign markets to the table. We can make those introductions. We can't follow up every one of these for each one of these companies. Each organization, each individual who goes on a trip like this, they're going to meet a lot of people. And they know their own business model. They know through their own follow-up where the right connections are. And they have to embrace that. And I've shared that with the group as well. And Thad and the Yield Lab is a perfect example of that. Those introductions were made. The doors were opened, principally by the U.S. ambassador. But it's a lot of credit to them that they found some partners. They followed up with those partners. They've spent time on the ground. And now, 1 year later, to be able to say, we're launching this at this incubator that was just opened in Galway, and for the whole team to be there to see this announcement, it was really a powerful statement.
That's awesome, Tim. Where does St. Louis go from here? What's the next step with the local business community and some of your partners that you've been dealing with over in different parts of Europe?
Well, a couple of things. Number one, much like what Yield Lab did, there's a lot of follow-up opportunity for each one of the organizations that went with us. Different opportunities for each. But as we're riding the train back from Galway to Dublin, and I'm hearing the conversations of the delegation, and it's just a rewarding experience to hear some of the discussions going towards, okay, boy, I got to really look at this, or I got to follow up this. But it is incumbent upon them. We can assist, but to really follow up where they see potential. And it's going to be different for each organization. Secondly, as we've reinforced with our partners in Galway, Dublin, and in Lyon, we welcome a follow-up visit of their own innovation ecosystem to St. Louis. They've met all the right partners. We can help take the lead on from a local perspective on organizing these visits. And so we impressed upon our partners in each one of these cities, we want to see you come to St. Louis. And this entire delegation reinforced that message that we'd love to see a reciprocal visit here. And on a more specific point, BioSTL, much like Yield Lab, BioSTL has been working through a number of connections that they made on the first trip. They came with us now again on this follow-up trip, and I know that they're looking to organize a more sector-specific follow-up visit in the health science area back to Ireland. So again, broad examples of follow-up, a broad example of welcoming inbound reciprocal visits, and then a little bit more targeted when you look at health science opportunities and business-to-business opportunities here in St. Louis and with our partners in Ireland. And you know, as I reinforced with the ambassador, none of this would have been possible without Kevin O'Malley and the commitment that he made early on, and the as he said to me, the vague direction that he gave me back in 2014. And I said to him, I said, "You weren't so vague, you know." He really was specific. We didn't know exactly what it was going to look like, but he wanted to see something happen. And I think a credit principally to him, but to many others, including Sheila Sweeney, who led this follow-up delegation. It's happening, and it's fun to watch, and I have no idea where all this is going to lead, but I know some real positive outcomes for St. Louis on a global scale are happening and are going to continue to happen.
Lots of great information today. Thanks for the visit, Tim. We appreciate it.
Thank you.